I'm Bob Knote, and welcome back to the Camp Chaos Chronicle. On this episode, we're going to begin the rear brake renovation, and that's going to require the removal of the IRS unit in the back. And to do that, we need certain tools. Dang it. There's a way that I do this that makes it a much safer and a lot more fun operation to do. And to do that, we need to modify the jack here a little bit. And it doesn't take a lot of time to do. First of all, we need to get rid of this little round pad here. It's just not big enough to do the job. So that's just a matter of taking an Allen wrench, in the case of my jack, and removing that bolt, and it comes off. What we're going to do now is replace that with this plate right here. And this is a piece of 1/4 inch hot rolled steel, and it's shaped in such a way that we can bolt this to the bottom of the IRS once we get the sheet metal tie plate that's bolted on the bottom of the unit with 8 bolts. Maybe there's 10 of them, whatever. And what that does then is it assures that we're not going to have the jack fall off of this unit, and then we got to wrestle the thing out from underneath the car. Incidentally, it weighs about 500 pounds. Darn near as much as the engine. We've got the rear wheels off the car, and right away you probably noticed that this doesn't look a lot like your setup that you've got on your car. Well, this is my track car, and I've done some modifications on it that have been helpful in a lot of respects. First of all, you notice that I've added a sway bar to the back. But what we've got here is an arm that goes back to a point on the rear of the trunk of the car. And you'll notice also I've angled the trunk downward along a fold line in the trunk drop panel and skinned that, and I did that in order to provide more airflow as well as to provide space for the exhaust pipes, which you see come up from underneath the rear axle and out the back of the car. So this is non-standard as well. So what we got to do here is we've got to, in order to get this out, we've got to disconnect this arm from this bracket that I bolted to the back side of the bottom of the hub carrier. We don't have the stock trailing arm, which normally would run from right about here to a point up here underneath the chassis of the vehicle. It is replaced by a trailing arm that I've made that actually runs from here and goes into a point on the chassis that is in line with the inner pivot of the lower control arm. I'm going to have another video that's going to go into this in pretty great detail once we get this thing out. I've got a lot of videos when I actually did this that will be looking back and seeing how it's done. So at this point, we're just going to get everything disconnected so that we can get this thing out from underneath the car and start working on it. We're at the point now where we've got the jacking plate bolted to the bottom of the differential, and we can begin to remove these bolts. Now, getting the nuts off certainly is going to be easy, but because of the fact that this thing weighs so much, as I said earlier, probably about 500 pounds, it can be difficult to get these bolts out. But the great thing about the jacking setup that I've got is that we can jack the rear end up so we can take the load off of these bolts, so we should be able to just grab the heads with the pliers and just pull them right out. Well, everything's disconnected. One thing that I didn't get a clip of was disconnecting the drive shaft, which obviously has to be done. So we're ready to drop this thing down and get it out from under the car. Now, it's not just a simple matter of dropping the jack. What we've got to do here is we have to drop it down a couple of inches and then pull it back free of the forward mounts of the fabricated trailing arms that I made, and then we can lower it down all the way. So let's see what happens. Well, we got it out of the car, and I got to tell you, that jacking plate on the bottom of the differential, that's the way to go. It was just a piece of cake to get this thing out without it falling off the jack and having to drag it out from under the car. So it also happens to work really well as a work stand, although you have to disassemble things symmetrically, if you know what I mean, so that this thing doesn't fall over. So there's that. But I've done that, and it really does work well. This thing really is kind of a mess. It's been ridden pretty hard the past 10 years, and it kind of looks that although it is in really pretty good mechanical shape with the exception of the brakes. So what we're going to do next time in the Camp Chaos Chronicles is to describe some of the modifications that you see that separates it from what you probably have under your car, and talk about some of the changes we're going to make before we put it back in. So if you like these videos, like, subscribe, follow us on Facebook, and leave a few comments down below so we can know what we can do to redo better. So we'll see you the next time on the Camp Chaos Chronicles.